Hello and thank you for joining me today. Today I'm sharing with you an altered picture frame that I created for Finnabair's August art recipe. This recipe included gold nugget paste, art pebbles, gesso, and the color scheme blue, beige, and fuchsia. I altered this tiny little frame that I found at Dollar General near my house. I really didn't have anything in mind when I started, but I did start with a quick layer of gesso, and that's where we're going to begin. I started by adding plaster paste through a stencil. As you can see, that's what I'm doing here. I do love plaster paste. It's one of my favorite texture paste. It takes color amazing and it works perfectly with any intricate stencil that you are working with. So by far one of my favorite products. Anyhow, you can see the base of the picture frame now has that beautiful pattern on it. I'm not sure if that's what you would call it, but that's what I'm going to call it for the purpose of this video. Anyhow, right now I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get that Be Happy gone. I've already added a coat of gesso to it and I can still see it, and I know that I would have to add multiple layers and I don't really want to do that, so I've decided I'm going to decoupage this tissue paper onto the picture frame. Now I know in the finished project you don't really see this tissue paper, but I swear this is the first layer, this is the process, and sometimes that just happens with mixed media. You just build layers until you're happy with what you're getting, and for me this is where it started. So it's sad to see that all this beautiful tissue paper is completely lost in a layer, but I do have more, so hopefully it'll pop up in a different project. Anyway, I'm just going to continue decoupaging this tissue paper around the picture frame, and you'll see me finishing that up there, and then I'm going to make sure that everything's dry, and I'm going to dry that layer of plaster paste on the base of the picture frame as well. Once everything is dry, I am going to reassemble my picture frame so I'm able to start building my collage and starting my project. Now at this point I'm really not sure what exactly I'm doing. I just know the color scheme that I'm sticking with because I don't really have anything else in mind. So I grab linen and I'm going to go ahead and dry brush that around the picture frame, with the idea that I'm going to still be able to see the tissue paper through the paint. I do get quite heavy-handed with this and I already lose most of the tissue paper, but I mean really in the finished product you don't see it anyways, probably because of mostly this step, but I'm not really sure where I'm going with this at this point in time anyhow. I'm just trying to stick with the recipe. So here you see I'm just dry brushing this around, and then I'm going to give that a quick dry. Linen on the inside as well. And you can see that I've grabbed some linseed spray because I'm not really liking the way this is looking, and I'm thinking, well, I can just add some linseeds and that'll give it more of a vintagey feel on top of the paint. So that's the thought process there. So after this is dry, you can see I add some steampunk sepia. And I do like how that kind of dries and pulls a little bit and makes it look a little tea stained. So I'm happy with that for right now. And I'm going to go ahead and start building my collage. But I'm still really not sure where I'm going with this. So that's why you'll see me put pieces on and take pieces off. And I'm working with heavy body gel, so I really have a lot of play time with that. The gel does hold everything in place very well, and it gives you stability to work with, but you have a lot of time before it's set. So you have time to make changes and restart things and move things. It's a wonderful product to work with. So here you see me just moving my resin pieces around, and these are just resin pieces that I have made for different projects, or I just made when I didn't know what I was going to do, so I just sat down and made a bunch of clay or resin pieces using my molds. So I'm just playing with it, putting pieces on, taking them off till I'm happy with it, because I really don't have anything in mind at this point in time. I'm just trying to figure out where I like things, where I don't like things. I'm not sure. So right now I'm deciding that the center of my frame is really bare, and it's not characteristic for me. So I'm going to go ahead and add some chipboard here, and you can see I'm trying to tuck chipboard underneath the frame a little bit because it's not stable, because I've removed that glass, and I probably should have put some foam tape or some glue or something in there, and I really didn't do that. But once I add all the gel and the embellishments in there, it's fine now, but I probably should have done something a little bit different there, but you know, I didn't. So hindsight 2020. So here you can just see me continue to add embellishments around the frame, and I'm just using heavy body gel until I'm happy with it. Once I do get the resin pieces in place that I'm happy with, I go ahead and I'm going to add a coat of linen to it, and that's just to make everything more cohesive and kind of bring it together. So I'm just trying to keep everything the base coat color, which is beige at this point in time. So anything that isn't beige, I'm painting beige. And that's what I'm going to do here. And you're seeing me cover all the chipboard and all the resin pieces. And I'm still not really sure exactly where I'm going with this, but I know that my base is beige. So that's where I'm at right now. Now that I'm sure about my focal point, I'm going to go ahead and start working on that. So I'm adding a coat of linen to one of the I think it's a Barnyard Star from Finnabair. It's one of her mechanicals. And I'm going to add blue, as you can see, to the heart. Now, I do wind up painting the top part of this Relics and Artifact blue as well, but at this point in time, I'm not sure. I'm thinking that I'm going to be putting crimson on top, but I don't wind up doing that. Anyhow, you can see that I've just used the teeniest, tiniest little bit of paint and a wet paintbrush, and that's it. It's one coat done. Boom. It's super easy. A highly pigmented paint. It's wonderful to work with. Super easy. Here you can see I was adding a little bit of clear gesso to my flowers. And that's just something that I picked up a while back from Miranda, but she could have picked it up from somebody else. I don't know. Anyhow, I'm adding clear gesso to my flowers before I adhere them to the canvas. That way they hold up to the mediums that I'm going to add to them. It just makes them a little more stable and strong, I guess would be the right way to put that. I'm not sure. Anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and position my flowers around my canvas at this point in time. I'm still trying to use them to stabilize the shutters to keep them where they're at, and that's why those two roses are right next to each other, and it looks really fun on camera, but it looks pretty in person. I'm not sure. It looks kind of strange here though. Anyhow, I'm just moving the flowers around, trying to position them till I'm happy with them. I'm not really sure yet exactly how I'm going to alter them. So some of the flowers have different colors, some of them have textured and print, some of them are just plain. But I know that I'm going to add color to them, so I'm not too concerned about them not matching at this point in time. Now I'm just going to go ahead and add in some resin flowers and tuck them in. I'm tucking that button in. Again, I'm just trying to stabilize that picture frame to make sure that it doesn't move once I put my relic and artifact on there, because it's a substantial piece, so I don't want it to cause any wobble. So I'm adding all my extra little resin pieces on there, resin flowers, the wings at the bottom, and then I'm going to go ahead and coat all that with another coat of linen, just trying to keep that really consistent. That's the one thing that I'm sure of here, is that this is my base coat, this is my base color, and this is what I'm sticking with. So anywhere that is not going to be altered, I'm sticking with this beige, and that's the idea. I'm going to keep this beige. It's not how it ends up, but that's where I'm starting. So now I'm adding art stones, and to do this I'm adding big puddles of 3D matte gel, and I'm going to add mega stones, regular stones, and mini stones. I'm just adding the stones right into the gel, and I'm just kind of pushing them in, and then I'm going to let them dry. I'm not going to put anything on top of them until they're dry. If I do, I find it doesn't work, but I'm going to leave it overnight at this point in time. So the last thing I'm doing is adding some stones, and then I'm going to add some more paste here and there to dry overnight, and that's all I'm doing. So here you can see I'm just gobbing some gel around different places that I'm not liking the way it looks, and I'm just trying to finish those clusters off. And the gel and the stones just makes it look a little bit more natural for me for some reason. It just kind of goes, so it's not just sitting there. Personal preference, some people love them, some people hate them. I like the stones. First I added the mega stones, then the regular stones, and I followed it up with the tiny little mini stones. And that just made my clusters a little bit more stretched out and not so abrupt. Again, personal preference. Now I'm adding some white crackle paste, and I'm just going to use that with a stick because honestly my white crackle paste is a little bit dried up. So this worked best, and I'm just adding it in some of the places that I feel like the canvas is lacking, or it doesn't flow, or it's not cohesive. So I'm adding a little bit on those shutters because they're standing out and everything's beige, and I'm just not really sure where this is going still. So I'm just adding some crackle paste because it's a go-to product for me, and I'm like, everything's better with crackle paste. So I'm adding this around, and then I'm going to go to bed and let this dry. And hopefully tomorrow it'll be easier. So I went to bed, woke up, didn't go back to my craft room that day. A couple days later I decide, okay, I'm going to make that whole focal point blue. So I come down and I start painting the flames blue. And then I look at it and I'm like, yeah, not great. So then I'm going to go ahead and start adding a little bit of shimmer to it, and I'm going to do that by adding a metallic paint, which is rich turquoise, and I'm just going to add touches of it to the flames. And then I'm still not sure about where this is going, so I'm going to add some other things, and you'll see that later on. But here you can just see that little bit of shimmer with the metallic paint that matches perfectly, and it works really well. And I think that I'm still thinking that I'm going to add some fuchsia paint on top of this, but I decide against it, and I just paint that little tiny heart fuchsia. See, I'm thinking about it. I really want to paint fuchsia on those flames, but I don't want it to wind up looking purple, so I stay away from it. And I just paint this little tiny heart fuchsia. But everything just seems kind of bleh. So I'm going to go ahead and add some gold nugget paste because that has some bling in it. It has little black specks in the gold glitter, and the gel makes it shiny. So I add some of that to the flames, and I'm like, I like the black. So now I'm going to add some stamping around the heart with a Stays On ink and a scribble stamp. And it's one of Finnabair's old scribble stamps, and then I'm like, I like that. Let me stamp that on top of the star too. So now it's moving along, and I'm not heating it as much. And I did go ahead and add some stamping around the frame. I'm not sure if I did that on or off the camera, But I found this quote stamp from Tim Holtz, and I'm like, okay, so I'm going to use that. Not sure where. Let's place it around. Still not sure. But it's starting to come together at this point in time, so now I'm going to add fuchsia because I can't have that tiny little heart being my only pink. So I decide I'm going to paint the flowers, this, crimson fuchsia. And at this point in time, I'm not kidding you, I was like, what did I just do? And this looks horrible, and oh well, this project is shot. So I'm just continuing, and I'm just like, let's just keep going and see what happens. So I'm like, when in doubt, add water. So I just added some water, and because I had put so much gesso on those paper flowers, I was able to do that, and that's one of the reasons why I love to add the gesso to the flowers. So I'm just moving the paint around, and they're looking a little bit better, and I'm like, okay, this might be okay, so I'm going to keep going. So I'm just painting the flowers, adding the water, and letting it flow, lightening it up a little bit. And I'm sorry that I get off camera here, but with this much water, I had to move the canvas around, and there's no way to just keep it flat. So now I'm like, okay, those roses are really bright against this beige. I need to add some blue here. So I'm doing the same process, and I used rich turquoise for this, and I used the blue impasto as well. But I'm not done yet with that, and I decide I want some more texture. So I am going to go ahead and add some gold nugget, and that's just through a little stencil, a little script stencil that I had on hand. And I'm going to add some gold nugget into the little nooks and crannies and on top of my gel from where the art stones are. And that just gives me little black specks and little touches of glitter, and it actually looks really pretty. You don't see a lot of it, but it's a nice touch. It'd be another way to add some micro beads, glitter, things like that. I know that it's paste and it's for stencil use or whatever, but it's another use. Anyhow, so now I'm trying to bring those roses back to life and just show that they're actually roses and not just gobs of pink. So I'm adding a quick layer of heavy gesso just to the tips of them. And you can kind of see my hands kind of like a bear claw position there, and I'm just using my hand as a palette. I'm a very messy person when I create, and I use my hand a lot. Most people use a napkin or a paper plate or something, and I just use my hand. So when I leave my room, I am a hot mess. Anyways, everything's starting to come together, so I'm just adding some final touches, which is typically wax or something like that. And I did start with silver wax on the flames, as you can see, but I didn't like it, so I went ahead and changed that up to gold, and I'm going to add that to all the little resin pieces that are sticking out, and then you'll see me add some to the shutters later. But then I really wanted to do something different with the pebbles that I'm adding here, so I'm just adding a touch of wax to the back of these pebbles, and I'm going to go ahead and add a layer of blue impasto paint to it, and it just makes them really stand out. They're kind of looks like there's a sticker behind there or something, but it's just the two products, so they're really pretty, and you don't really see a lot of them here on the video, but you can see them in the final project. And I'm sure that I saw one of her team members do this or something very similar to this, but I've always painted the back of my light bulbs, and it's kind of the same process because you're getting that clear bubble, and whatever you put behind it is being accented from the pebble, I guess would be the right way to put it. Not really sure, but that's what you can see that I'm trying to do here. And then I'm placing them where I want them to be, and you're just seeing that little bit of gold in the blue, and some of them have more gold than others, but it just makes them a little bit different. After I have my pebbles in place, I want to add something a little bit more to it, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap some wire and some glass beads around my heart. I did this off camera because it was a hot mess on camera trying to get that wire in place, but you can see the finished product there, just some wire, a little bit of glass beads, it's all in place. Last finishing touches, I'm going to add a little bit more of the wax on the shutters just to kind of make them more cohesive, and I'm adding splatters with Golden's Titanium White and Finnabair's Black Raven Sparks paint. And those are my kind of go-to for my splatters because I like the shimmer and the black, and I like the really white, but that's just my preference. So I position my heart, I add my quote, and that's it. I wasn't 100% sure about this project. I'm probably still not 100% sure, but I am happy with the way that it turned out. I hope that you enjoyed my process. Thank you so much for stopping by today, and I'm glad to share another project with you. If you have any thoughts or questions or even a thumbs up, I greatly appreciate it, and you have a good day. Thanks. Bye.